Welcome to Still Plays Galaxy Heroes. This is Grand Arena, the second match of Season 43, and last round was a win to build up my lead here in Kyber 2 and make things a bit more resilient for me. Have a good shot at a 3-0 week. We won the match up against Geos. Here's a look at how that went. He could not full clear me, and my defense really showed up in this one. So you take a look here. He needed 2 attempts up against Han, 2 up against Trench, 4 up against CLS. That's not all. In the top territory, we get even more help, where he needs 4 more attempts to take out Grievous, Bossk, and my Tusken squad down here. And when you need that many attempts, it's very unlikely you are going to have enough squads left over to full clear. And that's pretty much what we're seeing in this match. He does not even attempt going up against Maul or Padme here. He does take these teams down in 1 attempt though, but with how many teams it took him to clear the front 2 territories, he wasn't going to have a good opportunity at full clearing me. He also took another attempt up against one of the ships here in fleet, 2 attempts to take down the Profundity. And even if he full cleared, we would have far outpaced him in terms of banners. So very well played, well fought match, to showing that amount of grit to really muscle through in this one. With today's match, my opponent is SLKR, who in the last video I highlighted as being one of the better players in the bracket, so I'm not surprised to see him. He has a good amount of Zetas at 230. We are almost identical in terms of overall GP. He has very little Omicrons though, so that is going to help us out a bit. 6 GL player. Relic units is at 163, which is actually the most of the bracket, but we've seen more. There's scarier things that we go up against. 180 to 200 is where it can start really causing some problems for me. At 163, I feel fine. His depth is acceptable at 200. Really, you just want to be above 200. Once you're below 200, you start having issues with your roster depth being able to absorb multiple attempts in order to get a full clear. With the relic units, he's one of the better, if not best, in terms of his relics and his distribution. He has a whole bunch of tier 5. We're actually beating him in tier 7, but he compensates for that with more tier 8s. And you can see me getting pretty close to Leviathan ready with these tier 9s now. With the mods, he's actually the best mods of the bracket. This is one of the reasons I singled him out in the last video. With the top 25, he's at plus 26.7. I'm actually second in the bracket, but he's beating me out by a little bit. And with the top 500, I'm also second to him with his plus 18.45. With Datacrons, and I guess with his counts, the 25 plus, 20 plus, and 15 plus, he is edging me out on each of those. And with all of those, I'm also second best in the bracket. Datacrons, he's good. This is acceptable level of participation. It's not the crazy level that I'm doing it at, but I can't actually use all of these, so it doesn't matter. If he can actually use all of these, then that is going to be advantageous. No Jabba, and he does have a Relicate Lord Vader though. JMK and everybody else, Jabba's is the only GL he doesn't have. But here, a big surprise, no Melgus, which means also no Leviathan that we need to worry about. The Admiral Raddus here is fine. Iden is good, so he can probably do well in fleets. Only Relic 5 though, Starkiller and Relic 5 on Wampa. These are characters I would like to have at Relic 7 or higher. SWGOH is usable. No Omi on Traya. So when we see that deficiency with the Omis of only 13 Omicrons, here's where it shows up. He doesn't have Traya. No Aphra, no Swolo, so that means if we see Rey, it's going to be easier to deal with. This looks like a player who just does not engage with Conquest. That's what is being proven out here. No third sister to worry about, and these other characters aren't as usable level. And this is where we see some of the little bit more of the shallowness coming through. With the Maul, these characters look fine. His gas is at 300 speed. We'll pay attention to that. And only a 5-star Profundity. With Akez, looking at the quality of his modding is pretty excellent. He had a great pool of mods here. He's got 37 characters at 300 speed or faster. His Traya is his final character at 300 speed. You can see Fallen, Vader, a couple characters below, but he had a lot of excellent characters at 300 speed, so that's going to be a problem. He did attack first, and that did put me in a position where I was wondering if maybe he didn't care about Grand Arena and it was just going to get his minimums and allow me to win, because that's atypical. At this point, I'm recording my audio over the footage, so I know how this goes. He does return. Now, his defense here, he does have a number of GLs, SLKR, JML on the lower territory, and with his Ray here, we're going to just do Starkiller. There's no Swolo. I do think he was like inactive with Conquest characters, so that helped a bit. Switch over to the full-size view. Now, standard stuff, I have tweaked some aspects of play, just making sure we can get Ray down into the yellow quickly. I do opt to dispel the crit hit immunity now instead of stunning some of the other characters. I'm less concerned with the stun. Holdo about to go into the yellow, but I'm a little less concerned. Raise down. Like without Swolo, this is just way easier. We gotta get the damage immunity off. Okay, now it's off of Holdo. We can take her out and go after Ray. I'm trying to remember if I did much. I did a little bit of testing in this match. There's one or two things that I think are a little interesting. We're going to do my Swolo thing here. With the Datacron sets, with the max health and max protection, it's not as much of a one-shot guarantee as it can be under other scenarios without the Kron or with different Krons. But I like using this up against the Zam Kron because it's fairly effective at negating the efficacy of Zam's Ami. And you can ignore taunt and just eliminate her like that, which that's great. And being able to ignore stealth is super nice, so we just back to back, blow up Zam and Dengar, and now we can focus on Bossk. Love Swolo. If there's anything that this channel needs to do is really just hammer the message of how good Swolo is and how good that ignore protection Ami is. Like, people treat it like it's this like third-rate Ami, and it's not true. JMK, JML. Now this is just because of the particular spice mix of GLs he has set down. I forget how much scouting I did with this match. Like, I'm playing this the night before, I think. Well, we'll be able to see with the clock how much time is left. But it was one, I must have done a little bit of scouting for me to be comfortable using JMK. Trigger the ultimate so we can ignore the taunt and just go after Jedi Knight Luke quickly. Now Cat can eliminate Luke, and we got a much easier time. We had pretty strong performances of this week at Grand Arena. And then this one was recorded on the newer machine. One of the things you can see is just the shadows under the characters are well rendered. Things are loading a lot faster. The old machine, there's like this speckled shadow thing going on. You can see it in some of the older matches. Yoda down. And then JML, quick work. Easy. Now we got Phasma and Nute. We're going to go up top, head for the GLs. Now we got SLKR here. And with the SLKR, I'm probably going to JML it. Yeah. And I recorded the audio for this video in different sessions. Like I did the bracket last week before the brackets expired to make sure I had that footage. So I don't even remember, not even last week, a couple days ago, before the current week of Grand Arena started up, to make sure I captured the proper footage. And I don't really remember how many GLs this guy had at the moment. But JML is a nice strong counter to SLKR. I'm kind of surprised we don't really have a cheaper counter to him. Considering how old of a GL he is at this point. Like there's strong counters, but it's still going to be like a GL counter. I mean, in 5v5 you got the JKR, JKL counter, but that's also one where... No, I guess I would do it. No, it's just you don't see SLKR as much just because players who have them tend to want to use him for offense because he's so valuable as a counter to a lot of these other good squads. Alright, we got Starkiller. And here, we're going to take my Relic 1 Sith Eternal Emperor. And that is just because of the Leviathan, I haven't been able to afford to take him up higher. Although, now that it's been, what, a week since the Leviathan, that's now something... Not even a week, it's been 4 days. So it really only been 4 days? It came out on the 20th. I'm recording this the 24th. I can afford to do it now. I've got this. It feels like a long time ago, though. And this is one of those counters that's just strong. So even though we're not going to get like the best banners with it, I don't care. We're getting through it without having to deal with issues. And this is a team in 3v3 can cause issues if you're not using a good enough thing. No, perfect. And this, I think this was the player, you saw he didn't have Swolo. I don't think he had Melgus either. I think he just doesn't play Conquest or engage with Conquest. That's why you're not seeing me like use save Sith Eternal Emperor for a Melgus situation. I don't think we're going to see a Melgus. Yeah, down goes Marjade. And we got Grievous, Grand Inquisitor, or Qui-Gon, which will use the Grand Inquisitor. That's a fairly dedicated counter for me these days, so we're not going to wait, we're just going to do it. I miss the days of... I'm recording this pretty late, excuse me. I miss the days of having a good Datacron set to be able to use Fifth Brother in a pretty reliable fashion to take this out, to take out a Qui-Gon. It does need Datacron help to do it though. At least in a reliable enough fashion. Now we are past the major teams. Now we have a little bit of flexibility to have some fun, and we are going to have some fun here. This is where we're going to do our first testing. I don't know how long it took me to make the choice. Are we going to do Troopers first? Right, we'll return to Phasma, but I'll make a choice there. Are we going to do Jedi? Oh, this is excessive. Excessive and unnecessary. Kind of surprised I'm doing this. I also haven't really figured out like how high we can punch up with this Basilicron. I've been basically just using it to boost counters that we already do with it. Yeah. Like, no surprising stuff here. Straightforward, easy, sensible. Okay, Django gets blown up. And Nute goes down. But that was an overpowered counter. It's just... I think I just didn't want to think about it at the time. And Django's a difficult character to do testing up against. Now, this is a little bit of testing. Just testing the extent of the Merrin Omi in 3v3 context. I like to do testing up against Phasma. Phasma is... like, you get a decent... It's a good enough squad where you can actually learn something. Where if they can't beat Phasma, they're probably not going to beat anything better than a Phasma. And a Phasma team is still good enough, though, where you're learning something about the counter. So you can see, like... the Phasma actually performs fairly well up against it. But you can see the amount of plague stacking. And it's still pretty decisive. Where I should have healed up there. Should have healed up. I missed banners because I didn't heal up. And I still don't do all these opportunities to get fully healed. Yeah. Well. So after a result like that, it puts me into a mindset where I feel fairly comfortable trying out different teams, going up against better squads, and you'll see me do that in the next match. Traya here, going up against Raddus. This is a strong counter. We're not going to learn anything from it. We've done this a bunch of times. It's one, though, that we might do less with Third Sisters around. But hopefully by the time that Third Sister becomes like a consistent issue, I've got her. Like, I think I'm 2/3 of the way. And I think in October I will be unlocking her. We're getting about 25 to 30 shards at territory battles now. So that final 100 is going to take about four or five territory battles. So about 2 months. 2 months and a TB. Now going up against Wamps here. This is one you just got to do a little bit of managing. This is straightforward stuff. Trying to think about if there's nonsense I want to talk about. Sometimes I just like to talk the nonsense. Like, as I record this, because I'm recording this obviously after this match took place, like, the big news today was, like, Prigozhin, the Wagner Group founder, his plane was blown up today. Which was not surprising if you've been following that story unfold. Like, he was definitely going to die. kind of surprised it took as long as it did. And he was just kind of flaunting things in a way that was just reckless. I think the... Yeah, okay, so we got what here? We got Grievous. Iden, Bam, Geos. Are we going to Vader this, or are we going to use Wookiees? Okay, so are we doing some testing? Oh, Wookiees are on defense. We can't do Wookiee testing. So we're just going to do Vader because without an interesting team to test, why think about it? Like, Ewoks aren't going to work, or Rex isn't going to work. I'm sure we'll do Rex at some point this match. Remember when he had that Vader cron? What a fun cron. I don't know how widespread the attitude of not liking some of these overpowered crons is. I know it exists, but I like things that fundamentally alter the nature of Grand Arena. It keeps things fresh. They're an effective equalizer, especially for a player like me. If you have fewer GLs than your opponents and you're active in datacrons, like, those overpowered datacrons are a way to help you match up and make up for the fact that you don't have the GLs. And they add a variety to Grand Arena that has been lost because of things like minimum requirements, where everybody starts having these very uniform, similar looking rosters. A lot of players play with the same kinds of defenses, and all that makes Grand Arena stale. And at least datacrons function as a way of adding that spice back to a game mode that used to be really dynamic and crazy when it was first introduced, where every defense was different, every roster was different. It was really fun. Alright, with Rex here, I do recall doing this. This was something where you can tell that obviously Rex is solid, because he just takes a lot of hits. He's doing pretty well. But there's not enough of a damage boost to really help them elevate what's going on. And I don't know if the 3v3 help of that Omicron is meaningful enough. Now, Cere is a squad I trust a lot. But if I remember correctly, I was disappointed with how this one goes. You can see they're already landing stuns. They got healing immunity or health down, whichever one that is. And then they're just keeping characters under control. And then this was a surprise result. That's usually like a one-hit takedown, and IG-11 just took it. That was disappointing. And the other issue is just they had damage immunity on, so I couldn't really take them out. Like, had damage immunity not been on Quill at that particular moment, then we could have probably taken him out, and this match probably would have gone differently. Now this part here, that's great. No, did I win this? I'm trying to remember now how this went. I think I remember how this went now. Because one of the things that's happening is without Kelkestis, we're getting fewer buffs onto Fulcrum, which means Whirlwind is doing a little bit less damage. And you can see what's going on with Cere. She's being effectively controlled So what I'm really counting on is Fulcrum to get enough damage, but now we just lost SWGOH, which now, when you lose all the side characters, that means Fulcrum is getting fewer buffs in order for Whirlwind to do some intense damage. Like, Quill was really causing problems out here. I'm trying to remember if this was a timeout or a loss. It must be a timeout. Like, what I'm holding out hope for is that the damage ramps up. Although, is that Omi's on... Is it a unique or a leadership? Like, is that Omicron now no longer active? It's got to be a leadership, Omi. Yeah, this has got to be a timeout. Can I just skip ahead? Like, this isn't interesting. So I just... Okay, there we go. Yeah, so you get the idea. Kind of surprised by this. I thought this was going to be a strong win. I do think if I would have played it better early, that we still could have won it. Like, if I would have done the Whirlwind onto anybody but Quill to start, and then have Quill not be under damage immunity when SWGOH had the big hit, SWGOH probably, we could have taken out Quill early, and then, or even taken out Bam early, and then we would have had more opportunities to use Fulcrum, or to use that one hit attack under more favorable circumstances. Now this is just some Rebel fighter testing where, like, you gotta hope that the Rebel that Saw here can win this. I don't even know if... Like, I feel like this has to be the 3v3 team because you kind of need a tank. But, like, my minimum expectation is that they get through this. But it doesn't feel great. And I do think I gotta make my bays faster. Okay, so Quill's down. So they passed the test. They meet the minimum threshold, which is to be able to clean up a broken squad without a leader. Even though they're at relics and I'm not at relics. And there's no Omicron here. I keep bringing this up, but it's because I'm really curious about that Saw Omicron. I might just do it. Like, what if it's crazy? Somebody has got to have put it on. I need to just look for somebody's footage and see what it looks like. So Relic 3 Shore is safe. So from here we can just auto, and eventually we'll get through Shore Trooper. Anything above a Relic 3 Shore Trooper though, I wouldn't use this counter. Because above Relic 3, the Shore Trooper just is a little too survivable, where you just don't have enough time in order to take him out. And then he gets faster and faster throughout the battle, and then you just you miss your window in order to take him out. Okay. Now we got Grievous, Padme. I don't remember. Do I do a Malak? No, Malak I already used. We gas it? Okay. This is the first week, so we didn't have the Datacron yet for the clones, but there is a clone Datacron in the current set that I am a fan of. Yeah, and this is... There's not much to say about this one. You don't see Padme too often, even in 3v3. Even I do use my Padme on defense, and she does get a hold from time to time. It's not great, but it's better than some of the alternatives. She at least takes like the right characters, and that's something. That's why I'll throw her down. But yeah, easy stuff. Moving on, Grievous. I don't remember what I did. What I do? Bad Batch, Shakti, Aphra. Yeah. Okay. I think this was my first time using Aphra up against Grievous too. I'm just usually using her in like more important contexts. There's other ways through a Grievous squad. But what I liked was just feeling out and finding out how this counter looked. Like, was it going to be strong and decisive? Or how were the banner totals going to be? Land an armor shred, go back to B1, take a hit. Now we're on to fleet, and this one I think went pretty smooth because there's not a lot of time left in this footage that I took. Which says to me I did this pretty quick and clean. So we got Scythe up against the Profundity. This is the only one that is a little bit more RNG dependent of the battles that we're going to do. Land a buff immunity, or try to land a buff immunity. Take a few hits onto the Scythe. Heal up a bit. We're gonna basic because I don't want protection up on everyone yet because I want a ship to go down. TIE Fighter does go down. Gauntlet goes down. But now I can bring up the bomber. And that's the only thing that matters. We're gonna basic because burning's already on everybody. And then shuttle's doing great. Now we'll go with the burning, reapply it through the Y-wing. Raven's Claw does not work. I guess it kind of works, but you lose certain functionality because Raven's Claws you're not supposed to use with rebel scoundrels. So that means the Outrider and the Falcon mean that you don't get full functionality out of the Raven's Claw. And I think the Raven's Claw specifically needs the home one. So whatever. Yeah, so we blow all this stuff up quick. It goes nice and easy. And from there, we got easy counters. This is going to be more straightforward. Chimera is just going to blow this up. We don't even need to think about it. I do need to update all these things now. Do some damage. We lose Vader very quickly, but we get to bring out the interceptor. And they take out my interceptor real quick and early. This is actually going about as bad as it can go. But we get to bring out the defender. And stun the Y-Wing, lose my bomber, lose my tank. But I do have the Chimera's ultimate now. Can blow that up, heal up my defender. Heal up again. Get rid of the other tank. Now we eliminate that. So as scary as this was, you still walk away. Because the defender is an awesome ship. I don't always bring it in. I'm glad I brought it in this time, because we wouldn't have won this match without it. Now with Raddus, we're just going to malevolence it, because why make things complicated? You know what, I think I'm going to just show you the results in a different fashion, because we've got the Grand Arena history. I can just show you this match. I'll show you specifically what this looks like. Should have done that in the last video too, since we're doing this, not quite a week late, but basically pretty close to a week late. Yeah, so we blow this up. And blow all that up. So I won't get ahead of myself. Let's just let this happen. Yeah, we go through all the steps, take it out, we're done. Moving on. So at that point, so here's a glance at the final board. We're not going to go through each of these territories in detail because I don't want to add the time to it. We're going to look at the specific teams that he used to counter them. But this is more a result of him after getting to the back wall and after the holds that he got on the front wall, knowing that he can't win and stopping. And here is how he played it. JMK'd the Jabba, JTR'd the Bossk, lost R2. He attempted gas versus Melgus, something that I used to have to do out of necessity. Very happy I have Sith Eternal Emperor and don't have to do that anymore, especially now that everyone's got Relic 9, Darth Revans. It's just not a counter worth risking. So now I can use Sith Eternal Emperor at least until Jedi Knight Cal Kestis comes. Because the way I expect things that are going to play out is we'll use Sith Eternal Emperor with Traya to take out Reva in a reliable fashion, and then Jedi Knight Cal Kestis will become the Melgus counter. Maybe we'll find other uses, but that might just be an efficient way to split things up. So Jedi Knight Revan's Qui-Gon. He uses his Revan up against CLS. Traya the Dash Han. Wampa the Grievous. This is what happens when you don't have a Relic 7 Wampa, why I advocate it, because Relic 5 Wampa is not quite enough. Like, sometimes he'll win this, but this is RNG. I also have Datacron here. He Savage to clean it up. He probably would have been better off just Savaging it in the first place. Veers the Mon Mothma, CLS, my Maul, Bad Batch, falling to my Tuskens, my Gear 12 Tuskens. There is the Raider Omicron. I love this squad. It almost always gets me a hold. He ends up having to use Boba Fett to take it out. Did a couple fleet battles, and then Lord Vader, Maul, and then he was done. But we wrap it up there, and we are just racing to get as many of these out until we are caught up, because we had just those computer issues, which we are now just working our way out of. Computer issues are now addressed, but we got a little backlog to deal with as a result. So keep on the lookout for more videos. Thank you for watching. Be excellent to each other, everyone. This is Still Plays Galaxy of Heroes. Good luck on those double drops.